Thank you for choosing our story. If you enjoy this one, don't forget to check out other stories on our channel. From princes and princesses to fairies and detective tales, each story is packed with beautiful lessons about friendship, family, and morals. Now, let's dive into today's exciting story. The Best Friend. Written by Mukhtar Ahmad, this story is a treasure trove of valuable lessons. All rights reserved. The Best Friend. Mr. Shahzad lived in a villa in Muslim town with his wife, children, mother, and younger brother. He had 3 children, Adil, Rihan, and Sania. All 3 were schoolgoing and had a keen interest in studying. They were diligent students who attended school regularly. The children were very close to their grandmother. They couldn't imagine spending a moment without her, and she was equally fond of them. While they were at school, she eagerly awaited their return, refusing to eat lunch until all 3 were back. Every evening, after finishing their homework and having dinner, the children would gather around their grandmother. They greeted her respectfully, climbed onto her bed, and surrounded her to share the details of their day. If any advice was needed, she gently guided them. Then came the much-anticipated story time, which the children thoroughly enjoyed. After the story, the children would retire to their rooms. Their grandmother had a passion for reading as well. When her sons were young, she regularly bought them storybooks and magazines. Back then, popular children's books from publishers like Farazan's, Sheikh Ghulam Ali and Sons, and Maktaba al-Quraish captured young imaginations. She also had a wooden cupboard filled with hundreds of books, including the ones her sons had read during their school days. Life was peaceful until the day Mr. Shahzad received a letter from his office informing him of his transfer to a city called Kushalnagar. Although Mr. Shahzad didn't want to leave his city, he had no choice but to follow the orders. Reluctantly, he moved to the new city with his family. This transition left the entire family feeling quite melancholic. On the bright side, the office provided them with a luxurious house and a car for their use. Adil, Rihan, and Sania initially felt out of place in the unfamiliar city, with no friends or relatives nearby. However, their spirits lifted. Once they started school and began forming bonds with classmates and a few friendly neighbors. Despite these new connections, they still missed their old friends and city. They eagerly awaited the summer vacation to visit their previous home. Mr. Shahzad worked for a mobile company, and his job kept him extremely busy. Taking a long leave of 10 to 15 days to visit his mother and brother was out of the question. As a solution, he called his brother Farhad and invited him to visit with their mother. Farhad couldn't get leave from work, so he apologized but arranged for their mother to travel by train instead, as the bus journey wouldn't have been comfortable for her. On the day of her arrival, the whole family went to the station to receive her. Seeing each other brought immense joy to everyone, and they returned home happily. After dinner, they gathered in the drawing room to chat. Mr. Shahzad, thrilled to have his mother around, sat beside her. Suddenly, she asked, "Son, which newspaper do you subscribe to at home?" Her question caught Mr. Shahzad off guard. He hesitated before replying, "We haven't subscribed to any newspaper. Whenever needed, I just read the news online," he replied nervously. Grandmother's expression made it clear that she was not pleased with his response. She fell silent, and Mr. Shahzad realized she was upset. Trying to make amends, he said, "If you say so, I'll arrange for a newspaper starting tomorrow. Will you only act on my suggestions? Don't you realize yourself how important newspapers are? Did you forget that your father used to subscribe to 2 newspapers at home? When you and Farhad were little, both of you would eagerly read the children's section. How excited you were for Tarzan's stories. And let's not forget how you secretly enjoyed looking at movie advertisements in those papers." Grandmother's stern rebuke amused the children, and Rihan chuckled and affectionately wrapped his arms around her. Gently pushing him aside, she continued, I fail to see the value of your education if you don't understand the importance of newspapers. You've handed mobile phones to your children to keep them occupied, but they likely know more about cartoons than they do about the real world. How would they know anything about it when they don't even read the newspaper? Mr. Shahzad and his wife, Rukhsar, felt a wave of embarrassment at grandmother's words. She was absolutely right. Caught up in their busy lives, they had forgotten the importance of newspapers. Her words made them realize that having newspapers at home could naturally spark the children's curiosity and expand their knowledge. Sensing their embarrassment, grandmother decided to shift the topic. Turning to Adil, Rihan, and Sania, she said, all right, children, I'm sure you'll ask me to tell you a story. So, bring me a storybook, and I'll read you a story from it. My memory isn't what it used to be, so I can't narrate stories by heart anymore. Her words left the children uneasy. Adil admitted, but Grandma, we don't have any storybooks. This revelation shocked grandmother. What? You don't have any storybooks? If I had known, I would have brought some from home. What am I supposed to do now? Just sit idle here? Now it was Rukhsar's turn to feel embarrassed. Regretfully, she confessed, it's my fault. I never paid attention to this. I thought if the children were interested, they could read stories on their phones. They never insisted on getting books either. Whenever they have free time, they're always on their phones. God knows where we're headed. Phones have distanced both children and adults from everything meaningful. But let me tell you all something important, friendship with books is the best kind of friendship. It keeps you away from useless distractions and teaches you countless valuable lessons. Books are the reason we know about matters of faith and the world. If we keep our distance from them, we'll become like stagnant water, useless and murky. Rukhsar replied, Mom, today you've reminded us of such important things that we had neglected due to our carelessness. Books open our minds and broaden our perspectives. It's through reading books that people have invented countless things that benefit the world. I've decided that whenever I go to the market, I'll make sure to buy books for the children. Grandmother beamed with happiness. Then she narrated a story to everyone. Mr. Shahzad enjoyed it the most because it reminded him of his childhood, when grandmother often told him the same story on summer afternoons. The next morning, Grandma went for a walk in the lawn. A little while later, a newspaper landed on the grass near the gate. Mr. Shahzad had instructed the newspaper vendor on his way to the office to deliver the paper to their house daily. In the afternoon, Rukhsar approached Grandma. Mom, I'm taking the kids to the market. Would you like to come along? Grandma replied, I'm planning to rest for a while. You all go, and I'll join you some other time. When they returned from the market, the kids carried bundles of storybooks in their hands. They eagerly showed the books to Grandma, who was overjoyed. Grandma, from now on, we'll regularly buy books and make it a habit to read them, Sania declared. Grandma praised the children and joined them in neatly arranging the books in the bookshelf. As she helped, she remarked, a treasure isn't just made of diamonds and jewels. Books are a treasure too, and far more valuable and beneficial than treasures of money or gold. I'm so happy that today you have become the owners of this treasure. Grandma, we'll share these books with our friends too, Rihan added enthusiastically. I'll make a register and write down the names of friends who borrow each book. That way, I'll always remember who has which book. Hearing this, Grandma's happiness knew no bounds. A month later, Grandma returned home, delighted to know that the children would no longer worry about who would tell them stories after her departure. They now had a wealth of books. Every night, the three children would crawl into bed, each holding a book, and drift off to sleep while reading. One wonderful outcome of this new habit was that their bond with books grew stronger, and they naturally began to distance themselves from mobile phones. As the saying goes, books are a person's best friend, and the children had truly discovered this truth.